A tenant in Pontiac, Michigan abandoned her three children in the property for years, leaving them to trash the place. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have a weird story for you, and it's coming out of Pontiac, Michigan, and it has to do with this tenant who abandoned her children, okay? Now, I haven't heard of a story quite as bad as this before, and that's why I had to bring it up. Now, I usually look at stories through like the landlord's perspective, but this is kind of an interesting side, like it has nothing really to do with the landlord aside from the fact that the property was just basically in terrible condition while those children were living there alone. I can't really blame the children for that. They don't really have a lot of the ability to take care of a property on their own without a parent being there. My real question is, why did the landlord never check on the property? I mean, I can't imagine that this lady was paying rent. So where, did that person not care about the property that they owned? What was going on? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if it was some sort of informal arrangement or what exactly was happening. Maybe this article will clear some of these issues up. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. So have you ever heard of anything as horrific as like three children being abandoned by their mom? And by children, this could still even be teenagers. They don't specify in the article, but still, kids being abandoned by their mom and then left to live alone in a house, okay? That's insane. Absolutely insane. Now, I'm going to go over this article and tell you exactly what happened in the situation. This article is coming from the DetroitFreePress.com, and it says, Pontiac housing inspectors visited rental when kids were living alone. Let's get into it. At least twice, Pontiac inspectors visited a townhome in the city where three children were allegedly abandoned by their mother, raising questions as to whether the kids could have been found and rescued sooner from their miserable living conditions. The two visits, one in 2022 and another last summer, happened in the time frame prosecutors allege Kelly Bryant caused serious mental harm to her three children by leaving them to live alone in what officials have called horrifying conditions. Last summer, a city building inspector visited the home to check out a newly installed front porch, city records reviewed by the Detroit Free Press show. And in 2022, another inspector reported a re-inspection at the townhouse at 660 Lydia Lane after it was cited for being an unregistered rental in 2020. Registering the rental would have triggered additional reviews of the home to ensure it was habitable for occupants, including a safety inspection. So, from the sound of it, okay, these kids, they've been abandoned at this home at least since 2022. And the place was inspected then. Those kids were living there at the time. And then in 2024, they came back and the kids were still there. So here's my question. One, if you in 2022 see a bunch of kids living in a place, no parents in sight, I mean, wouldn't you be obligated, or at least, even if you're not obligated, just call somebody, say, hey, this doesn't look right. This place is trashed and there's nobody here but a bunch of kids, you should definitely call Child Protective Services or the police or somebody over there to check it out if you're the building inspector. That's my personal opinion. Now, maybe the kids were lying and they said, hey, no, mom just went to work and she'll be back. So, I can't say definitely that it was the building inspector's fault, but, going back to the landlord, landlord, if they're not getting paid rent, you're not doing your regular inspections. You're not checking out these property. Now, if this is a super low income area, keep in mind, a lot of these properties are already in rough shape. We'll just say it like that, right? And so you will have landlords there who own properties and don't really do maintenance, don't really care as long as they get paid. But in this case, I don't even know if the landlord was getting paid. So insane that it was able to go on for so long. I wonder how old these kids are. I'm sure the oldest has got to be a teenager, probably close to 18. So, because if they were living alone without their mom in the house, they had to get food, they had to have water, etc. They weren't just living in there because they would have just starved to death if they were little kids. A June porch inspection would not have entailed any interior inspection of the home or any communication with the residents there, Jacob Jefferson, a spokesperson for Grimmel, said. He did not answer when asked whether inspectors entered the home during their visit in 2022. Authorities have not given a specific date that they believe Bryant abandoned her kids. So their claim is that, hey, back in June of 2024, they were just inspecting the porch. And that makes sense, okay? So, craziness, insane. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard has said it was between the spring and summer of 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. But prosecutors listed January 1st, 2021 in documents charging Bryant, 34, with 3 counts of first-degree child abuse. Bryant indicated in court records she moved to the condo in October of 2019. Records show 5 other city visits in 2020 related to the condo being an unregistered rental. Pontiac Council member Michael Goodman, who has pushed policies to curb negligent landlords, said the city has been able to register the overwhelming majority of its rentals since the implementation of changes over the past 2 years, including the addition of building inspectors and a rent abatement option for tenants. Why the property on Lydia was not registered as a rental, Goodman said, is honestly a good question. In Pontiac, there's always, I realize that they're sitting there and they're pretty focused on the fact that, hey, this property wasn't registered, but it sounds like they were still going through with certain inspections, building inspections. They still had a situation on hand that was completely out of control. I don't agree with building registration or building inspections, but I do believe that landlords should follow the law where their properties are located, and if they require it, to go ahead and do it, and we can fight it on the back end. Okay, that's what I say. Don't go out about and break the law, because you'll end up in more trouble than it's worth. Now, did the lack of a building inspection or this being an inspected property, did that lead to this situation? Absolutely not. Okay, that has nothing to do with the situation. We have a really bad mom out there who abandoned her kids. Whether the place was inspected or not has no factor involved in this situation. The place could have been inspected and the mom still would have abandoned her kids. And how long would it have been before those kids were discovered? Who knows? Okay? But that is how bad this situation is. They try to turn it around rather than saying, hey, this mom, yeah, she's facing charges now, but they're also trying to blame the landlord for this, for not registering the property. Property's a dump. They got some pictures of it. If I can, I'll throw them up on the screen so that you can see them. And just tell me what you think in the comments below of this whole insane situation. You think the landlord is to blame for these kids being abandoned for years? Go ahead and let me know.